Hello.
Hi everyone.
Hi.
Hi,
Hey.
we on. Okay, I've started the webinar, and if Nobantu can just get a camera on, there we go. Awesome, awesome stuff. Welcome, welcome to this webinar, which is, can you believe it? Webinar number 4. We started these about shortly after lockdown, where some people said, well, what are we going to do with this time? And how do we make sure that we connect with people around this difficult time? So we decided to host these webinars, and they are basically our way of saying to you, we care and with you and we want to connect. And there were meant to be 3 of them, I must say, and the last one was meant to be last week. But as it goes, when the thing was extended and the team decided, well, why stop something that's working? So we're continuing, and we're probably going to have another one next week. We will have another one, let me not say probably. So it would be nice to see you again, same time, same place, next week. But coming to today, I see there's quite a lot of people already that have joined in. And just a little bit, today we are talking about the essence of coaching, its relevance and benefits, which is an interesting topic. And I'm quite excited to have the 2 lovely ladies and sisters and colleagues and everything else that are in attendance and are going to be the experts today. So that's the panel today. So just a little bit about me. I am Pam Yako, and we're just trying to get our things synchronized here in terms of just the next slide. My colleague Ganasha seems to be okay. It says I can control your screen, but I'm not able to. Anyway. Oh, okay. There's a couple of people on the call. I see Dr. Lulu Gwaga, who was one of our panelists a few weeks ago, is on the call. I saw Dr. Sengan Ndlela, who's now become a regular on our things. We welcome you to the call. Louise Joubert was saying she's here. Welcome, Louise. And also just a few people. Bunolo is here, Buki Wesang was here, it's just a lot of people. Andrew Camp, amazing. Maybe some diggers, a whole lot of you are in attendance, and that's very, very good news. And Nomonde Maseko, you've raised your hand. Before we do that, I think there are people trying to say we are here, and Dombi Mkenge, of course, is here. Just to deal with logistics, I am Pam Yako. As I've already said, I am the host of these 7 webinars. Today, really my job is to keep the conversation going. And I'm not going to be a coach today, and I really, really expect my coaches or fellow coaches to do that. So logistically, we will allow you at a certain point to speak. But at that time, we will then indicate that I'll give you a chance to, I will then give you a thing to speak. If you want to speak, this is what you do. You raise your hand. At the bottom of your screen, there's a functionality that will give you raise your hand, okay? As you raise your hand, then I'll be able to see that you want to speak. However, if you want to speak, I must also say that that you are only given 30 seconds. If that, so I would be very strict on this, because we want to make sure that everyone gets a chance to be able to be part of the conversation. And I will remind you just before we allow you to say something. And also, just in addition, that we're going to try and keep this as conversational as much as possible. It is not a coaching session. However, coaches being coaches, when they answer questions, they always try and answer from a coaching frame. And I'm sure you would probably get, like I would do as a coach myself, I always enjoy to listen to other coaches and how they approach things. And I like to be coached all the time myself. So it's going to be very, very interesting and very nice. So without wasting time, so I've got two coaches here. The one is Coach Notemba. I think we are actually struggling with showing the screen, but we will send you the presentation that would have shown with the two coaches and their details, and they can also talk to us when the time comes. I would have, so we would, if we haven't got your details or you're registered, Zoom used to send us whoever is registered, but they don't anymore because I think they can't deal with the volumes. So if you want us to be in touch with you, send us a chat or your email address. There's a chat button at the bottom. Or if you want to ask a question, we will allow you towards the end to ask some questions, or in the middle, we'll see how it goes and how the conversation goes. But if you want to ask a question or say anything to the panelists, I will look at it and I will read it and I will make sure that my colleagues answer it. So 2 things to remember. It's your chat button if you want to ask a question. And secondly, is just on that chat button to know that you can give us your details if we don't have it already. We have also logistically sent you, when we were sending you the recording, I must just check if I'm recording. Okay, it is recorded. If the recording, it's difficult if we don't have your email address. So once we have your email address, we can get in touch with you. Like Sandiswa has done, Sandiswa Mapukata, who's at Sonzaba Sandiswa at Gmail, I think. So we will send you the recording. And also in the recording, when we send the recording, we will also send the presentation, which is not really, I mean, it would have been more details about who we are and who we're talking to. And now that we can't show the slides, I'm going to ask my coaches to do that when they introduce themselves just now. So we always play, we had something else planned, but something else happened. So it is what it is, and that's what life is. And I think that's the beauty of being alive. And then the other thing that we had asked you, if you haven't done it already, we had sent you a little short survey that just give us feedback. How are you finding the sessions? How are they working for you? And how else do you want to be served by us as Zenande? And we'll make sure that we incorporate that into our planning, and as well as we servicing you as our clients or friends or partners, however you want to define yourself. So much from me. I'm going to hand over to the coaches. The names are Nobantu Mpotulo and Notemba Mxenge. They are coaches themselves. And I'm going to just give them a chance to, first question that I'll ask them is just to introduce themselves. So who wants to go first? Nobantu, you want to go first?
Okay. You seem to be directive, ma'am. That's uncoach-like.
Oh, gosh. Okay, let's see this. Let's do this.
Sanbonani, everyone. It's so nice to talk to people. The lockdown makes us to be alone, and the technology is not enough because as Africans, we want to see each other, we want to touch each other, and during this time, we cannot do that. So what I found myself doing during this time is to see people with my heart. Just knowing people, making people aware that I am there. So my name is Nobantu Mpotulo, originally from Umtata. Have been in Pretoria for a while now, since 97. Kodwa again, Dililo Ikoduka, I go home from time to time. And coaching to me is a calling. It's what really makes me alive. I started coaching in 2002, and I am certified with the International Coach Federation at the Master Coach level. And it's amazing how much I knew that this is the path that I was meant to take. I come from a family of people who are very good in maths and science, and I also had an ability for maths and science. I am the last born at home, and I've got 3 brothers. I had 3 brothers then. And all of them followed the science math stream, medicine, land survey, and BSc. And my middle brother, I remember when I was writing matric, which was then standard 10, took 2 weeks of leave to make sure that I passed maths and science. I would follow in the science field. And behold, he didn't know that that was not what I wanted to do. So what I did was just to make myself pass maths and science with D. And when I went to university at the age of 17, I studied psychology because I knew that I wanted to work with people. And my brother, when now I was older and had finished and pursued my dream, when I told him, he laughed and said, oh, so I was set up here. So working with people for me gives me joy. It brings me alive. It touches the inner me. And as a result, when I coach, and when I was still a counselor, I worked at universities with university students, I would really feel so fulfilled at the end of the session. And you know, at times I say, maybe my coaches should be paying, I should be paying them, because after each session, something else shows up. So this is a helping profession that is required, especially at this time, because as coaches, we give an empathetic listening. We see our clients. And when I coach, I have 5 pillars.
Okay,
that I use.
so I will come back to that. I just want Nothemba to get to introduce herself. I know she is in Midrand, and there is a challenge with network. So now and again we might lose her, but we're not planning on losing her. But when it happens, she will try and join in. And Nothemba, just initially who you are, just to get the conversation going.
Okay, thank you, Coach Pam, and thank you again for continuing this platform. I think you have been quite consistent in affording people the platform just to share their experiences during this time of lockdown. So as you rightfully said, my name is Nothemba Mxenge. I have been in this beautiful coaching world since 2013. Prior to that, I was a brewer. So I am a qualified brewer, worked quite a few years with South African breweries, which is obviously weird for a brewer to be in the coaching space. But that is part of my unique journey in terms of how I found myself in coaching. Really, my background is in chemical engineering, so the world of humans was not a very familiar world, which probably was the reason why coaching became such an intriguing field for me, because when I was launched into coaching, I didn't go looking for it. I was launched into the world of coaching. It became literally like what Coach Nobantu said, it became a calling I didn't know I had in my heart. And when I immersed myself in the world of coaching, I found my purpose in life. And so I have been fortunate to work with a whole diverse group of people, mainly women, with many different issues in many different contexts and stages in their lives. And for me, coaching has been such a gift, because with every interaction, with every coachee, a piece of me is found. It's as if I locate myself, or I appreciate, I guess, my own humanity by engaging so deeply and so profoundly with the different people I've had the privilege to engage with. So yeah, and I'm also a qualified certified integral coach with UCT Center for Coaching, and also an Enneagram practitioner. So all three of us Enneagram practitioners, which is, I guess, the methodology that we all love. And I do lots of work, corporate work, but also now of late doing lots of work in terms of coach training, which has been quite exciting for me to actually be on the other side of the desk. So thank you for the opportunity, and hopefully we can share, I guess, the beauty of this world that we're in.
Okay, lovely. Thank you so much. I'm quite intrigued by both your journeys, because, and it's not like something that you set out to do. You set out to, one wanted to be did psychology, and other one went out to be a brewer. And I suppose these days we do need brewers, don't we?
Oh, yes.
Sorry.
Unless Peggy Tele doesn't interfere.
Okay, so no, we're not gonna, that's a subject for another matter. It's not for this webinar. So we're not gonna talk about your brewing capabilities, and nor are we gonna tap into that. But it is useful that to see that you, both of you, are just real people that had started in a particular direction and went into another. So how are you finding this time, the lockdown? How does it, what shows up for you, and what are you finding since we started?
So I'll go first. So for me, I have to say that I have been even most grateful for actually being in a community such as coaching, because I've had the ability to actually lean on my fellow coaches to debrief myself in terms of what might be going on. When the lockdown first started, unfortunately, my family experienced a death in the family. And so that basically threw us in terms of not only dealing with that, but also the lockdown. So I have to say, during that time of planning for the funeral, I was in complete distress, in complete anxiety mode, worried about everyone, worried about myself, my family, how we're going to travel, how we're going to actually give my uncle, you know, a respectable burial. And in that time, you know, I could appreciate what was happening to me. And because I could appreciate what was happening to me, because of the training that we've had in coaching, that you need to be self-aware and do the necessary in that self-knowledge, that I was able to lean in on other coaches to support. So for me, if anything, I think the lockdown has helped me to deeply be in attunement with self and then ask for help when I need it. But then beyond, I guess, that difficult time, I was then able to really be in appreciation of what this lockdown is about, and what possibilities could emerge from the lockdown, and what it is that I needed to do in order not only to take care of self, but to take care of family, and also to take care of my clients, because I continue to coach. So what is it that I needed? What is it that I had to do? What practices did I have to lean in on in order to be okay, in order to be healthy, not only for myself, but for others? So in the main, I hate to say this has been good for me. I have enjoyed myself. This has been good. I think I found creativity. I found creativity not only in my coaching, but just creativity in terms of how to be resourceful, even at a time when things are so difficult. So just the ability to hold different states, even if it's almost impossible to hold the different states, but really to find a holding space for yourself. So that has been me so far.
Yeah. Coach Nobantu, how has it been?
I think for me, it has not been that different. I work from home a lot, and I've got a lot of international clients. So using virtual coaching has been my way of working. 80% of my work, I would say, it's virtual coaching. And also, as Nothemba is saying, I've found that there is such camaraderie in coaches, and there's such compassion and connection. So there's a lot of activities going on with a lot of coaches in terms of supporting each other, in terms of debriefing with each other. And also what I find helps a lot is being there for others. Like we formed a group of coaches internationally. It's called the 100,000 Hours Coaching Project, where we coach people pro bono, everyone in every language. I coach both in Xhosa and English, because what we do when we think of coaching as a profession, we forget about the lady who works at Checkers, who is at the cold face and who might not be able to express herself in English. So it's that opportunity, whoever is able to call in and call me, I could offer a little bit of Sotho, I know a little bit, or Xhosa, so that people can be spoken to in their own language.
Yeah.
And also we've started a group of meditation, mindfulness practices in the morning, every day, either myself or my colleague Nolita, we lead a meditation group, and it's growing with 30 people, and other people from outside South Africa are coming. There are good and bad days, because this is like confinement in a way. And one bad day I had was Sunday. My first bad day, Sunday. I found myself staying in bed for the whole day. And also when I woke up, I would wake up to come to the kitchen, do something, and then take a bath and sleep. And I was actually drawn out by a friend who said, if you're the positive one, our pillar. And I said, you know, we coaches as well are human. And for me, that vulnerability is important as a coach, because you don't want to appear to your clients as if you are this superhuman being.
Awesome. Okay, we'll come back to some of those themes that are coming out, which I would like to explore a little bit. But in this conversation, we are taking something for granted, and that is that all of us, or at least our people that are listening to the conversation, know what this thing called coaching is, okay? And I would like to just get your kind of practical, everyday explanation what the coach is, as opposed to what I'm sure the academics in the group can Google it, can find it in books, and it's defined what it is. But what is coaching? What are you guys doing? What is coaching? Okay, Nothemba.
I'll ask Coach Nobantu to go first.
Coach Nobantu, here we go. All right.
Okay, I think for me, you know, we find a lot of descriptions of coaching. And I think for me, coaching is seeing the person or the team that you work with. And I always say, it's like when I'm coaching, I'm using the Zulu greeting that is Sawubona. Am I able as a coach to see the whole being? A being that is whole, that is healthy, that is capable of solving their problems. So I see someone who, in their own right, are able to do what they have to do. And what I am as a coach, I'm not an expert. I am not there to solve my clients' problems or give solutions or advice to them. I am there to raise awareness. So as coaches, we raise awareness to what maybe clients might be having blind spots to, or might be refusing to see. Because there are those areas that we don't want to go deep. So hence, for me, the raising of awareness, the consciousness of coaching is important. And as coaches, we partner with you, we co-create. And the client is the one who sets the agenda. If you're working with a coach and the coach says to you, I think you need this and this, fire that.
Thank you.
Can I just add to that? So for me, and I love what you said, Coach, around that coaching is about being seen and heard, because in my first experience with my coach, it was a profound moment of actually, at a visceral level, experiencing what it is like to be seen and also to be heard. And I think coaching also allows people that voice, you know, maybe besides the experience, it allows people to actually hear themselves, because you are there as a non-judgmental presence in their lives so that they can actually experience themselves through you. But I also think coaching is profound and significant in that you are in relationship with another. And so for me, coaching is such a sacred experience in that being in relationship with another, it reveals you as a human being because of it. Because that relationship is so intimate. You build a beautiful trust relationship and a relationship of respect, but also a relationship of equals as well. So it's not as if the coach is trying to be your boss or your mentor or your therapist, but it's someone who is deeply curious about the human being in front of them. And because of that curiosity and because of the presence and the non-judgmental nature in which the relationship is crafted, that the human being can see themselves through you. So yeah, I echo that.
Yeah. So I like that, the fact, I mean, the last point there, the seeing. And I think from two perspectives. I think Nobantu was talking about seeing the person as a whole being, and I'd like to come back to that point about the whole being. And also, I like what you're saying about people's seeing. You are basically holding the space for someone to see themselves for who they are and how they're showing up. So I really like that, and I would like to come back to just now. But I also want to deal with the concepts a little bit. You threw in the concept of mentor and therapist, and how different is that from a coach?
So I'll explain it from layman's term, and then the psychologist will explain it more technically.
Okay.
I'm the engineer. I like first principles. So for me, and again, I like to go back to my experience, because I got caught by the bug of coaching because of the experience. And I think for me, when I first solicited a coach, I wasn't looking for a psychologist or a therapist because I had experienced that. I'd experienced hurt and trauma and wounding and just feeling deeply stuck in my past and not knowing, you know, that I'm actually stuck in my past. And I think the psychology sessions that I had were able to actually help me deal with past issues. But what I was looking for in a coach at the time, I didn't know that is what I was looking for up until I experienced it, was what I now understand, you know, that I am stuck, but I don't know how to move forward, right? So I'm not fixated on past necessarily, but I appreciate that there's a paralysis in terms of where I am right now, but I need someone to facilitate a journey with me to move me forward, which is what I believe coaches do as compared to, I guess, therapists. And I think that the journey moving forward is to help you to be aware of where you are and where you could be. So what is creating the stuckness here, and what are the possibilities in the future? But also besides the possibilities of the future is what can you do in order to course correct, right? Because I'm stuck because I took the wrong path for many different reasons, which could require a psychologist to actually unpack. But I now understand that there is suffering that is created because of the stuck place that I find myself in. But I need someone to journey with me to navigate the way forward and the possibilities of my future.
Awesome. Coach Nobantu?
Thanks, Temsi. You could not have said it better. I think you even said it better than the psychologist. I have a saying that I use, which says, the past is gone. The future is unknown and certain. The only known is in the now. So from what Themba has said,
we need you to say that again. Like such a profound statement. Say that again. The past is gone.
The past is
writing
gone.
It down.
The future is unknown and uncertain. The only known is in the now.
Okay. Awesome.
So if you look at therapy would look at what is happening with the client now and sort of look backwards in terms of what is it that could have caused that. So it look at maybe pathologies or the causality, and then the therapist would offer more supporting kind of ways of being. Whereas with coaching, because as coaches, we deal with what is current, what is relevant, what is arising in the moment, with a kind of way of saying, with what is arising now, where do I want to go? So it's charting the future, and also knowing that with the uncertainty and the future being unknown, you might not get that result. Like now, we never knew that we would be in COVID and locked down. So as coaches, we help clients to deal with the now and also to dance with the uncertainties of the future. So again, it's using that inner muscle, that resilience with the client to build that up so that they can deal with the uncertainties that they meet with. And if you look at mentoring is more guiding in nature. There is sponsorship mentoring, which is used mainly in the US, where they would talk of the protege and the mentor. And there's developmental mentorship, which really is helping with the person assuming more responsibility. And now what's interesting is what's called reverse mentoring. We have the millennials, we have all these new people that we can learn from as those who were born before technology. So now in mentorship, we're looking at how we can even explore reverse mentorship. I liked Ululu when she was talking about how her daughter got her to read literature. So that was reverse mentorship in motion.
Awesome. All right. So I'm going to get some people to just say a few things and ask you some questions. But just before they do that, I can't resist this one question that I would like to ask, going back to what Nobantu had said in the beginning. And that is seeing the person in their wholeness. You know, what does that mean? When you're seeing me in my wholeness, what exactly does that mean in everyday speak or understanding?
I'd like to take that because for me it's a very important thing, Pam, especially from the history we come from in South Africa. As Black people and especially as women in South Africa, there's a tendency of not being seen. And we've grown up, you know, silence, our voices not being heard and also not being seen. I remember I started consulting in South Africa at a very early age. You would come into a company and literally you'd be coming as a consultant smiling, and you see that the person is looking just over you. So for me, that's seeing. It's how do you make sure that the person matters? How do you see this person wholly? And not just see this person, because we know when we come into spaces, we come with all of who we are, our ancestors, our aunts, our extended families, those that have supported us to be who we are. And when I am seen, is also able to become, that builds confidence in me. And that makes me to develop even more.
Okay. I don't know, Coach Norton.
Yeah, I also think, Coach Pam, I mean, it's such a beautiful point that Coach Nobantu made around just the intergenerational, I guess, experiences that come with you, whether it's the woundings and the joys, but they come with you, and that's the wholeness of you. But I also think the whole being for me is the idea that, and again, I go back to my experience of coaching, that many people come into coaching, myself included, with just what is sitting up here, you know? So people are just here as just thinking beings, and they are not, beyond just being a thinking being, they are not connected to the other parts of themselves. So what I'm beginning to appreciate about coaching the whole being is that we're not just thinking beings, we're feeling beings, we're doing beings, we have bodies, we have relationships with our bodies, we have relationships with our world, we have relationships with with spiritual beings as well. And many people come into coaching not even being in awareness of their emotions and their bodies and how they are relating to all of that. And so for me, especially with integral coaching, we are really trained to actually train the whole being and not just the thinking being.
Awesome. I've got two questions for you that have been asked. The one is a technical question, which is that how does one become a coach? What should I study? And what qualifications are needed? And then the other one is specifically to Coach Nobantu from Mukadi. And that is, you alluded to the 5 pillars when coaching. What are they, and how are they relevant to the essence of coaching? So I'll start, I think, on the question of the qualifications. I think Coach Nobantu Coach Notemba, you can deal with, just in terms of because there isn't one qualification. I'm sure you're going to say that and tell us that. And then Coach Nobantu can come on the 5 pillars, and then we're going to open it up for some conversation with the people that have been dying to ask you questions and wanting to say something. Okay.
Mm. So for me, I guess the starting point, even before qualifications, you must have a pull towards, I guess, helping people, like Coach said. For me, it came later in life, but I think there must be sort of a need for you to be of support, be a contributor to, I guess, people's way of being, easing people's suffering, helping people to get unstuck, helping people to be more self-aware. There's a whole host of institutions, of modalities, of techniques, of tools, of methodologies. But I always say to aspiring coaches that whatever you choose, please make sure that it's an accredited institution and accredited program. So whether it's through Comensa, although International Coaches Federation is probably it, but there's other ways of making sure that you're choosing a certified or an accredited institution or program. And I suppose it then becomes not only up to you, but through your research in terms of what calls you. I mean, there's coaching, which is like integral coaching, is coaching the whole being, but there's coaching that focuses on mindfulness, coaching that focuses on, say, is brain-based coaching, coaching that focuses on the body, somatic coaching. It then becomes probably up to you in terms of what are you called to do, what are you interested in, where do you want to niche yourself. But if anything, please make sure that you do a qualification that is ICF or Comensa accredited.
Thanks very much. Coach Nobantu, on the levels 5.
Thank you. Thank you, Natemba, and thank you, Pam. For me, it's just simple pillars. The first one is around see more. So you see more of the being that you are coaching and the totality of that person, as Notemba is saying, the integrated being. And the second pillar is hear more. As coaches, we're supposed to listen more and talk less. At the end of each coaching session, I always assess myself as to who did most of the talking. And if I am the one who did most of the talking, then I was doing the work of the client. So hear more, which means that you get to the empathetic listening, deep listening, listening with the heart, with the ears, and with your head, which also is integrated. And the third one is love more. How do you unconditionally accept the person that is in front of you? I always say when I go coaching, I go like, I think of the first time I fell in love. And that person that is in front of me becomes the central person in the whole world, in the 7 billion people that are in the world. And fourthly, be more. How present are you as a coach? Because as a coach, you are present to yourself, to what is happening to yourself, present to what is happening with the client, what is seen and unseen, and present to the relationship. And fourthly, the last one is do less as a coach. So as coaches, we are there as serving clients. We see them more, we hear them more, we have to love them more, we have to be more and allow the others to be more and do less.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to open up the questions. Others people, I've said to them, they've sent me private chats, and I said I will allow now. I'm going to open up for people to ask questions. And but I've also noted the people whose questions have not been answered. The one is Rulani, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. If you can just raise your microphone so that I can see you. The other one is Nandi Manenza, who's also raised a very important question. She joined late, but she says she missed the discussion, so I'm going to give her a chance to ask the question. I just think the questions are substantive enough for them to ask you directly, and then we can all attempt to do that. So now we're opening the chat. I almost said I sound like I'm a talk show host. I said we're gonna open the lines.
Maybe that's your career to follow.
Now we're gonna open the lines and like give people a chance to say you're live on radio, you know, kind of thing. Just remember the rules, colleagues. We would want to give as many people a chance as possible, okay? And my panelists would like to also want to give you time for them to answer you. So, so when you raise your hand, please make sure that you speak for 30 minutes. And those of you that listen to
20 seconds.
Sorry. Oh, thank you. Imagine 30 minutes. Okay, 30 seconds. So think about what your point is. What is your specific question that you would like to ask? And then ask that question as sharply and as quickly as you can. And then know that if you've got another one, I'm sure there's enough people, there's more than 50 people on the call. So if someone else might also ask the same question. So if you're wondering about it, someone else might have. So decide on your question and be brief. Who you are, the question, 30 seconds, and we are in business. I've got Siam Dingi as the first one, so I'm going to allow her to speak. I already had Rulani and Nandi. If they can get ready to just raise their hands to speak.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having this, Coach Pam. And secondly, I'd like to say a special hello to Coach Wasemtata because Maqala and Wasemtata. So
hi,
Kaya. Anyway, my question is, what mindset as a coachee, when you're entering a coaching relationship, what mindset must you bring into the relationship? And is there specific things that you must do before you start entering a coaching relationship?
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, my next one is Rulani, who I've allowed to talk. So you've got the floor. There we go. Try now. I've unmuted you. See if you can unmute on your side. I seem not to be able to unmute you on my side. Okay, there we go. There seems to be a problem with your sound. Okay, can I come back to you in the meantime whilst we try and sort that out, while you try and sort that out? And just go to Nandi as my next speaker. Nandi, you've got the floor. I've allowed you to talk. And yeah, there we go. Nandi Manenza. Okay, and then I've unmuted you. Okay, Nandi, you are able to speak. Okay, somehow something is not working either with my side or their side. But let's just talk about the mindset questions because I don't have other hands up. So what mindset should I bring as a coachee to a coaching relationship?
I mean, I'm reminded of something Eckhart Tolle said, which I suppose is one of the products of coaching, which is enlightenment. And he said that enlightenment happens when you can no longer tolerate your suffering. So for me, the opening to coaching is when you can no longer tolerate your suffering. And I suppose by suffering, there's many different ways of suffering. It could be that I'm tired of the stuckness, I'm tired of the pain, I'm tired of not achieving what I want, I'm tired of limiting myself, I'm tired of moving in the world without an identity, I'm tired of not belonging in this world, I'm tired of not fitting in, I'm tired of the self-doubt. So there's lots of openings, I guess, for coaching, but part of those openings are a reflection of the suffering that we, I guess, experience as human beings. And so for me, I guess the mindset, or maybe how I assess that someone is ready for coaching, is when they can firstly articulate, what they want to get out of coaching. So if we project, I guess, 6 months or 12 months from our starting time, what it is they might want to get out of coaching. And then secondly, how willing are they to do the work? So are you willing to actually, do the deep dive work and immerse yourself in really appreciating who you are you becoming, what's causing, I guess, the issues that you came to coaching with. And when things come up, I guess, because part of coaching is to enhance self-awareness. When things come up, are you willing to actually stick it out and really, make sure that you work with the awareness, you work with what is emerging. But I also say that coaching for me is a long game. It's not 2 sessions and suddenly you are fixed. I think the mindset that you need to come to coaching with is that this is a lifelong journey. And so if you can look at coaching as I'm embarking on a journey where I'm going to continuously, reveal myself to myself, then I think you would be successful as a client. A lot of it, though, as Coach said, is that you are doing your work, right? So you must be ready to do your work.
Maybe to add a little bit on that, I liked what you raised, Nothemba, about the openness. And for me, it's how willing and vulnerable are you as a coachee? And one thing, coaching can be intrusive. And as Nothemba was saying, are you willing to dive deeper? Because with the coach, you find that a client would bring this goal. And when we dig deeper, you find that there are things that are in between the lines. And as coaches, we would ask those things that are in between the lines, which are actually the difficult areas and the areas where a certain sense of discomfort is brought for the client. So are you willing as a client to really have that beginner's mind as far as you're concerned, and thinking that I'm going to a journey that might reveal something that I do not like? Then how do I partner with this coach with whatever? Like, it's like going fishing. You can go and get a sardines, you can get a shark, you can get whatever. Then we partner together then and see how do we deal with that thing that we fish out, because we deal with what is in the unconscious and bring that up, because that's where the wisdom is. So the willingness to be vulnerable and to really open yourself up.
Yeah, can I just add something else? I think now that we are answering these questions, I think as well, we can't overemphasize the idea of willingness, because the willingness is in many dimensions. As Coach said, it's the willingness to be vulnerable. It's the willingness to be curious about what might emerge. It's the willingness to unlearn some of your stuff. And people come to coaching so fixated and so like stuck to their titles and labels and ways of being and patterns, but are you willing to unlearn that those things are no longer in service of you? But also is the willingness to stick it out when you have those major breakdowns, because coaching is not a fun thing, you know, but I think when you are willing to stick it out, when the breakdowns come through, because the breakdowns are part of the coaching process. It's almost like you're unraveling, you're dislodging those long held narratives that you've held about your life. And so part of the unlearning is to really dismantle some of those narratives. And some people can experience a major dislodgement. And in that dislodgement, they don't know who they are. But then are you willing to hang in there in understanding who you might be? So are you willing to learn to become who you are meant to be as well? So this idea of willingness is important for me, because you need to come to coaching voluntarily, but that's why you must be willing.
Mm. Mm. Okay, I've got another hand, but I mean, I like this idea of openness and willingness, and maybe something that the coaches can think about also as I'm taking the next question is then, and so that's the ask from the coachee side. What is the ask from a coach perspective, given the fact that you're going and navigating with someone through this journey, which is, well, let's be honest, can be a bit scary to opening myself up, to be vulnerable, and to unlearn some of the things that I've learned. And they've served me for a while, and probably for the better part of my life and my career. And now suddenly I'm coming to this space where I have to now be open. And what am I expecting on the other side? I'll come back to that. But I just want to I want you to reflect on that question. But I'm going to take Mokadi as my next speaker. And I've unmuted. I hope it works this time. If it doesn't, we're in trouble. Unmute. Yes. There we go. Try.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Pam, it's not a question, it's a contribution to what both Nothemba and Nobandu has said about the mindset. I thought I should add the following two to the question asked. The first mindset that I think the coachee needs is the willingness and being prepared to be challenged. You go into a coaching session and surely there would be questions from the coach. So the inward looking and being prepared to be challenged, to shift your mindset, I think becomes one of the things that are critical in my view. But also the second thing would be expecting a change. How do you, and maybe let's use this phrase, what got you here might not get you there. So the issue here is more where the coachee actually says, I do have goals that I want to accomplish. But within those goals, obviously, I must be prepared to change my behavior. I must be prepared to change my own mindset and beliefs in the attainment of those goals. That would be my contribution. Thanks, Pam.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks for that contribution. Let me just do the admin side. Okay, coaches, are you ready to come back? There's another question here that says, my question is around the future of coaching at the level of a coaching organization. How big and in what form will be the best coaching company in Africa? How big and in what form will be the best coaching company in Africa? Don't know. Yeah. Okay.
Not sure I understand the second part of the question, but
I
think the first part of the question, yeah. I think the first part of the question for me, just based on my experience, I mean, granted, I haven't been in coaching for a long time, but coaching is a young industry. So in the 7 years that I've been in the space, I've been quite impressed and quite encouraged, quite frankly, with how much corporates are actually seeking coaching services. Not only because in the past it used to be coaching services for their top executives, but actually just coaching services for everyone, first line managers, for everyone. But I think more so managers, because managers need to begin to learn to actually engage people differently. I think we are a more sophisticated, I guess, workforce, and the old ways of engaging employees are no longer working. And so more and more organizations are seeking to find different ways, I guess, of being a coaching organization in some way, by actually having leaders who actually engage their employees in a coaching way. Because what you do find is that when you coach people, when you engage people in a coaching way, there's a lot more willingness, as we rightfully have said. There's a lot more commitment and loyalty. There's a lot more creativity, because you're also coaching people to solve their own problems. So people don't necessarily always need to be managed if you actually engage them in a more sort of, in a coaching way, if I can put it that way. So I think organizations are leaning more and more in that way of being as organizations.
Oh, thanks. Nobantu? And
I'm not sure I understand the question in terms of what big coaching organization would be. I don't really do.
I don't either. So let's see if the person will come back with a question. But I do have a question, another question for you. That Rulani had asked. I've gone back. I've now figured out how to go back to your question. And I'm also learning by doing as I'm doing this. So the question was, Coach Nobantu indicated that coaching is about dealing with the now and helping shaping the future. How is it different from a Tavistock approach of psychodynamics, which deals with the here and now?
Well, what I would say, there are different modalities that coaches use. The Tavistock is mainly like the T group. And I use a lot of modalities, like Nothemba had said. We use the Enneagram. I use the Gestalt approach to coaching. I use mindfulness. I'm a meditation teacher. I use process work. I use constellations. So there is no right or wrong approach to coaching, as long as whatever modality or whatever practice you're using with a client, it's in service of the client and what the client's objective is. Because as a coach, you are a servant to your client. So I wouldn't propagate for any specific methodology that I would say this works, this doesn't.
Yeah. I think that's quite useful, and it's about being of service and being available and being present for the client, and meeting the client where the client is at, and meeting their needs at a particular time, and journeying with the client, because it doesn't have. Because I think what I was hearing you guys saying earlier on is about the coach doesn't always have the answers, and on the contrary, actually, the answers often lie with us, but we don't trust ourselves enough, and we end up then thinking that the answers are external to ourselves. It's also unlocking and getting in touch with that side of us that is sitting oftentimes with the answers, but we're just not confident or trust ourselves well enough that we'll be able to go through this. And I suppose the notion of trusting yourself enough can be, it's a journey by itself, because sometimes you wonder, how did I go through that? And oftentimes you'll be surprised how much you can do that. And a coach creates that space for you to walk that journey. Someone said, Nandi said here, just join. This may been covered already. I'd like to create a culture of coaching in my work environment without having line management becoming accredited coaches, but rather being able to identify coachable moments, which is a beautiful expression, in their day-to-day lives with the people that they work with.
I like what
Yeah.
Nothemba said earlier on.
Yep.
That this coaching mindset is not just a mindset that should be adopted by coaches. It works amazingly well with parents as well. I remember my son when he was 18 years. I mean, at that age, they have answers to everything. So I asked him, you know, I'd like to understand your generation through you. And here's the thing, I'd like you to coach me, and coaches ask questions. So it's amazing how much from just that, his mindset also changed. So to answer Nandi's question, a line manager is a coach. And also a line manager plays the role of the judge, because they also assess the performance of their employees. But in adopting the coaching mindset, that's when now a line manager becomes a thinking partner to their team members, one, and also through asking questions and soliciting ideas of their team members, they are broadening the wisdom within the team rather than being directive and instructive. So remember, as a manager, you are missing out on a lot of wisdom if you don't adopt a coaching mindset, because it's just your own kind of wisdom that's brought into the fore.
Okay, all right.
And I think it's a powerful point. Sorry, Coach Pam, it's a powerful point. What Nandi is saying, in that I think people also think that they have to be qualified as coaches in order to adopt the coaching way of being. And I always say, and yes, there's many programs around, you know, how do you help leaders to actually lead in a coaching way, like leader as coach programs. And I always say in those programs that I think we got it wrong for a long time, that as a manager, you're only wearing one hat, which is, I must tell you what to do, and if you don't do as I say, these are the consequences. But I think as a leader and as a manager, you know, one minute you are wearing the management hat, the next minute you're wearing a mentor hat, the next minute you're an advisor, the next minute you're a consultant. And all we're saying is, how about you try on the coaching hat too? It will make you a powerful whole leader, quite frankly.
Awesome. I've got a question from Lyndon Senganendlela. He says, on a larger scale, how can a nation be coached? What can be done to help South Africans to be more optimistic and confident about a better future, which they can contribute in building? More so beyond COVID-19, and how individuals are impacted by the national cycle. It is something that we spoke about yesterday a little bit, and when we were preparing. But let me hear you on it.
I like what Lindy is asking, and it's a futuristic question where we will look at large-scale interventions. And for me, if you want to hit large scales using coaching, that's where I find peer coaching is very useful. How do you start to help people to have accountability partners? And you could start this as a friend, as a group of friends. You could start this as a family. You could start this informally. Like Pam, you said you wanted to do this. How far are you with that book that you wanted to write?
Don't go
And
there,
also-
please.
And also, we are forgetting that we have the young ones that now have got totally different minds from us. Are we using them enough to add on to this large-scale coaching? How do we start taking the kids that we think we know more than them and start to use them to become part of the building up of society, post-crises, or just to get all the wisdom? We're missing out on a lot of wisdom that we're not using. So tap into someone who is in the streets. I remember my gardener, George was busy, and his wife was learning to drive, and George cannot drive. And I say to George, hey, George, you are teaching your wife to drive. She's going to a driving school. What if she leaves you? And then George says to me, which was a coaching moment for me, hey, Sisi, that's life. That's part of life, but I would have contributed to her life. And I said, wow. So there are moments and opportunities and possibilities to get coaching far and beyond.
Yeah. Look, I think for me, I mean, I think COVID-19 is a recent, how can I say, collective trauma. But I think South Africa has experienced a collective trauma for years now. And one of the reasons for me I got into coaching is that I just understood that as a country, we are in pain. You know, we can't go through such a traumatic experience as apartheid on both sides, on all sides, and think as a country we are okay. So there's a lot of us, as the young people say, who are the walking wounded, right? And when I got into coaching, I was very conscious that I was not aware that I was suffering. I was bleeding, you know, and I wasn't aware that I was bleeding and I was wounded and didn't understand.
Yeah, we lost you there a little bit. Okay, so we're going to move on. She did indicate that in Midrand, especially around about this time, her network comes and goes. So we'll get her to come back if she can on the call again, but I'm sure she will try again. In the meantime, I've got a question. Well, firstly, one is an acknowledgement from Karen Midzinski. Says, thanks, fellow coaches. It's lovely to see it's lovely to see you and hear your wisdom. So that's it. That's an acknowledgement, and thanks for that. And then Lulu Guagua says, as women coaches, how have you found coaching men as opposed to women? There we go.
You know, Lulu, I think the system gives you what you need to learn from. It's amazing. These past 2 years, I've found myself coaching more white African men. And for me, it has been a kind of the universe saying, hey, you say you are a coach. You say you want to love the people you coach more. And that indeed has given me that opportunity, because before I go into a coaching session, I first do my practices of mindfulness and meditation to completely take myself out of the equation. I am not important as a coach, and as a coach, I need to be aware what is being hooked in me as I am having this client. And just that awareness helped me to be able to know what I'm feeling at that moment. I've had clients who have shown tendencies of the isms. And just by becoming aware that I'm being hooked now, this is what is happening, and what is the objective of this coaching session? I'm here to serve this person. And not that as a coach, you become a doormat. For instance, if someone is rude, right at the beginning of the coaching, we do have some contracting and setting of boundaries. And we do have a no-fault divorce clause. If it's not working for you as a client, we can end the relationship. And the same way, if I feel disrespected and somehow a lot of things that are not serving this partnership, then also I can call for that no-fault divorce clause.
Yeah, thanks. And I want to, if I may, we're still trying to get Nothemba back. But I find, I mean, personally, that I've made a conscious decision. I mean, I coach men. I've got I've got a couple of male coaching clients that I work with, and I always do my best to try and make sure that I save them. And I think that's in all of the principles that the other coaches have raised. But I also made a conscious decision that I also want to coach women specifically, because I do believe that women have got a particular journey that is much more difficult than men do. So so I consciously attract, because I've put out the intention there.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to attract more women as clients than I attract men. And because of that, I've now learned, and I'm in the also processes of finding new ways. How do I coach women and not take issues for granted? And how to make sure that I show up in a way that another woman that's sitting on the other side, and I'm a coach supposed to be holding the space, I can get into their space and seeing them for who they are and what they bring, and in their totality, at the same time, not projecting my own issues as a woman as I come into the room, because I do not want to use the coaching session to use that to try and be and put what I'm feeling as a coach or what I'm dealing with as a woman on the lap of my client. So it also helps me then, for being conscious, to be able to have always awareness, to be able, when is this my stuff that is creeping in here,
Mm-hmm.
and when is it the client stuff, and being able to know in the moment and navigate and dance with that, and not looking at it in a kind of critical way of how I show up. And oftentimes I would say, I think this is more about me than it is about you. So let's just put it aside. It is what it is. Let's call it in the coaching session. But it is a journey, and it could be a conscious decision as well. But short answer, we can coach both. But at the same time, people have got, and Nobantu was talking about, you can be a mindful coach, you can be any kind of coach. You can decide where you want to play. And I've sort of personally have chosen that working with women is the path that I would like to take. Not to say that I don't coach men. I do. I mean, as I said, I have a few male clients. So I've got a couple of questions. Nobantu, I think, let's just check. I'm just going to check with Nothemba just now, because I'm trying to think. I don't see her as a panelist, unless when she was trying to be readmitted, she became let's just see if I can find her. Okay, she's not on, but anyway, we'll see. I'm gonna keep on trying to do that. There we go. Okay, there we go. Let's see. Technology allowing and connectivity allowing. Let's see if we can see her now. There we go.
Yes.
There
Yes,
we
she
go. Welcome back, Coach. So you came at a time where we're moving on.
Sorry.
We have to end the session. And I'm sorry about the connectivity. It is what it is. There's a question. There's 3 questions, which I'm going to ask them in one go, if you don't mind. And then we're just going to have to wrap up because we have contracted to finish at 3:30. And the question number 1 relates to, says, would coaches recommend that someone who's interested in being a coach go through coaching themselves first? So that's question number 1. Okay, do you need to be a coach before? Do you have to be coached before you become a coach? Okay, that's the question. Then the other one is from Monde Mayeki. So says, I'm a new coach who trained at a time when the convention was personal contact. This has and will change. What advice would you give me when I start my coaching on the 1st of May? Okay. The next question was specifically to Coach Nobantu. As a psychologist, how do you navigate the coaching relationship when you realize that the client has some underlying psychological issues that need to be addressed for the client to achieve complete wholeness? And then last one, not all days are great days, and thank you for your answers. How do you bring your sparring best in coaching sessions each time with your clients? Those would be our last questions. Do you need to be coached first before you become a coach? What's your advice do you give a new coach who is now starting and was trained in a time when there was like convention, we didn't have the platforms that we're using? Psychologists, how do you make sure that people, that issues that they're dealing with, the underlying psychological issues, and that how do you help them try and achieve complete wholeness? And the last question again is about how do you bring your best in a coaching session when you yourself have had a difficult day? And I just want to remind people, just as the coaches are getting ready to answer those questions, that keep on sending us your email addresses if you haven't yet, so that we can send you the answers. Also, if we had received a link to our survey, we would really like to know, you would have received it with the recording of the last session. Just provide us the answers. We need your feedback so that we can be of service better. And we also need to know what some of the issues that you're dealing with. This helps in planning the next one, and which will be same time, same place, and on Wednesday next week. But we'll communicate what the topic is. But in the meantime, coaches, this is the last round.
Can I just take the questions that I heard? I'm sorry about my connectivity. These are the difficulties of this new world. I just want to answer about the question around do you need to be coached in order to coach? And the resounding answer for me is yes. That we have a saying in coaching that you cannot coach if you are not coachable, number one. But also, you also need to do your own work, right? So to be able to be present, to hold a space for others, to cultivate a trust relationship, a respectful relationship, you also need to be in awareness of your own blind spots, your own triggers, your own issues, so that you don't bring your stuff to the coaching session. So you have to coach. You have to be coached in order to coach others. And then maybe the other question I want to answer is the advice to new coaches. I think for me, the advice is coach, 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 and coach. I think this is a practitioner's profession. You don't just get good at it by sitting on a desk and hearing models and modalities and techniques. You actually have to put them in practice. There's and not every model works with every human being. So the more you coach, the more you know what is appropriate for the client that you're working with. So I just want to take those two questions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the question I'd like to start first with is the one, how do you coach in the new normal? Having been trained in a kind of contact coaching. When I started with contact coaching, and I started doing virtual coaching in 2010. And what I found with virtual coaching, I sort of developed my listening skills more, because I would pay attention to other things like the breathing of the client. When the breathing is slower or the pace of breathing is faster, pay attention to those and be curious about those. You pay attention to the tonality of the voice of the client on the phone, because there are times when you find your client would speak faster, slower, and also you pay attention to the pauses and the silences. And all you do as a coach, you observe those, you reflect those back to the client, and the client makes meaning of what is happening in their world of whatever they are working with. And as far as being a psychologist and finding a client that is presenting with psychological support that's needed, I do not mix coaching and therapy. If we have contracted for coaching, that's what we're gonna do. And if I find that this client at this moment would benefit more from therapeutic intervention, I would suggest, if they have their psychologist or therapist, for them to actually attend to that first, and then we come back for coaching. Or I could give referrals in terms of therapeutic intervention, but I don't mix the two in coaching.
Thanks very much. Nobantu, I will share it with Karen, and she wants to know a little bit more about the meditation practice in the morning. I mean, I don't know if anyone else is, but we will just make sure that the people, the people get those that are interested in the meditation thing. But if you can just say what it is, and I'll just say, I know you sent it to me, so I can if technology figure out where it is and try and do it and try and hold the space. But but I know Karen specifically, I can send her the link.
Okay. So this started, we started this when the lockdown started, and we sit and practice as a group. We're now about 30 using Zoom for 30 minutes from 6 a.m. to 6:30. Please send Pam your details, then we will give you the login detail. It's open, so people log in from all over.
Awesome. Just in closing, are there any kind of closing comments or that you would like to share with us at this time? Whatever you want to say in closing, or think you have now given enough that you can give in one session, but okay.
From me, what I'd like to emphasize on, a good coach is not a coach who has titles, certificates, accreditation. What's important in coaching is for you as the coach to do your inner work. How do you do your inner work? Bring the presence to the coaching, because with coaching, you work with the field. It's not about performing. you actually take yourself out. You practice what we call, you become selfless. You forget yourself as a coach and know that the other person is the one that is figural, that is more important.
Thank you.
Mm.
Nothemba?
Mm. So for me, coaching is a sacred offering. It's a sacred offering to humanity. It is a gift to humanity, because anytime you can hold a space, a safe space for fellow human beings to truly be themselves, to help them to reveal themselves to themselves, to help them to be honored as human beings, and to guide them in their journey of life, is something that is quite amazing. So for me, it's a privilege to be in the profession, and really my parting encouragement to those that are listening is that we all need a coach. So if you're even listening today, it means you probably are thinking about it. So we all need a coach, by virtue of, I guess, the world that we live in, that is imperfect, that is bound to actually upset us and trip us and get us into spaces that paralyze us. So for me, for us to heal, we need to do the work, and coaching is one of the ways to do the work.
Yeah, thanks very much. And I can't thank the two coaches enough for giving us the time, sharing their wisdom and sharing their coaching journeys and their whole beings. I'm super excited and grateful for just how you've shown up and how you've your presence and what you've been able to share with us, and in unlocking or showing to us what coaching is. I'm just honored to have been in your company and presence this afternoon. And we will be sending to people the link, your contact details, so that if they want to explore things further with you, they can do that. But I also want to, as I'm thanking you, also for me, another principle was at play here. And I just want, I can't say this enough, because it's also got common in the other sessions that I've said, the power of sisterhood, how we as sisters can at the given moment show up for each other. I really, really appreciate it. And I thank you very much. I'm learning a lot. I learned a lot in the session, and it's a great thing. I'm in the company of coaches, so it helps with my own personal journey and growth. And other people, we've received some of your email addresses. Invite others if you think this was useful for you. Also, don't forget the survey that we sent out. We just want to know, we want to remain relevant and want to know what are the things that you want us to talk about. But next Wednesday at 2 o'clock, 2 to 3:30, 1.5 hours, we will be hosting another webinar. And if you have got the time and you want to join, please feel free to do that. And see you next week. And thanks for attending, and thanks for participating. And once again, thanks to the coaches, and goodbye, everyone. Thanks.
Thank you, Pam. Thank you.